Today's the 10th of January 2024 and it's a Wednesday and he's just gone to the knitting club, but it's a little bit wet and grey and there's a threat of rain. It's been raining already this morning and there's more rain to come and more rain over the next few days, so it's not looking very good as far as the weather's concerned. So I thought I'd bring you a little bit of news and let you know what's going on. And first bit of news, something I've mentioned on and off, is about the health care at the moment and the position of COVID and more particularly the flu. And we found that some health centres have had to give up their doctors for the day to go and help in the emergency centres at the hospital. That's because there's just so many people going to hospital with flu or COVID symptoms. Good that they can do that, and at the moment it's not causing too much of a problem, but the health ministry in Spain has been suggesting for some time now that masks should be worn in health centres, in clinics, and anything that's health related. So places like pharmacies will require face masks. Already being implemented in some areas, and it's sort of been threatened to be mandatory here in Mallorca, in fact through the whole of Spain as of today. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but it looks as though it will. So health centres, anything that's health related, you'll have to wear a mask. Not anywhere in the public, not anywhere in the shops or in the buses or even on the streets, just in the health centre. And it's really because of the surge in numbers of people who are suffering from flu or cold or COVID symptoms. The numbers are quite high here, but nothing as much as you might find on the mainland, and I think Valencia's been particularly hit. They say that this has got another week or two to increase, and that's because children have recently gone back to school, people have gone back to work, and they're in closer proximity to each other, so the passing on of the viruses becomes that much more easy. So wearing a mask is a sensible thing. It means that if you have the virus, you're not going to be spreading it and giving it to somebody else. So it's really a matter of thinking of others. It's not being selfish and thinking of yourself, it's thinking of passing on things to others. So it looks as though as of today, at least sometime later on today, they may become mandatory. So what about the tourism? The islands have become somewhat saturated with tourists over recent years, and there's always been concern that we're getting a little bit too much. And one thing that's happening here on the island is that they're going to invest 15 million euros, this is coming from the state, to finance more efficiency and more digitalisation. Of the nearly 15 million euros that have been assigned, 8.9 are going to be projects to improve efficiency and promote the circular economy of tourism. So that's waste management and promoting the local supplies, and hopefully that will have a positive impact on the area. Mallorca we think of and see as being a rather wealthy island, but there are a lot of poor people on the island, people who are finding it difficult to make ends meet and even provide food. So we do have food banks on the island, and some of those have been running dry, and they've been running really with private donations, people coming along and donating whatever food or supplies that they have. And just before Christmas, you may have seen a video that I did with the Masons, and we went round, we spent about 2,000 euros buying some essential items that could be added to the food bank. So the food bank is actually getting quite a lot of support from private individuals or private groups such as the Masons. Something I found interesting, I've talked about hydrogen a lot in the past. I see it as a perfectly clean fuel. You burn hydrogen and you just get pure water and a lot of heat. So as a fuel it is very, very clean, and we do have on the island this hydrogen plant which has been causing problems because it doesn't actually work. Well, somebody's come up with another idea, and that is to use the windmills. And I can remember when I used to come to Majorca many years ago, you'd fly over the central part of the island and you'd see lots of these windmills, some in working order, some of them in disrepair. Those windmills were there to pump water up into the fields so the farmers had water for their crops. Well, they've fallen into disrepair because farmers are now using electric pumps. So there are a lot of windmills out there that could be repurposed, and someone has come up with the idea of changing them into aerogenerators, really, generating electricity so that the electricity can be used to make hydrogen. And the local government's going to put €1 million into this. There's also already been some tests done, and it looks as though it's possible, and that the areas around Sepobla and that sort of place will be able to use windmills to generate electricity to produce the hydrogen, which can then be fed into the grid and used in different ways, possibly to the buses that are parked up and not being used, possibly for shipping, which is to use it on ships instead of using oil that they do at the moment, and the hotels in the north of the island are going to be using. They say there's about 3,000 windmills that can be converted for this purpose, so well, we're early days yet, and we'll see how that one goes. Just last week, the first flights took off to Andorra. Andorra being the ski resort, possibly the closest ski resort to us here in Mallorca, and we now have direct flights to Andorra. Well, I say Andorra, it's actually just inside Spain, a short bus ride away. Tickets are available for just €50, but that's with a 75% discount, so a lot more expensive if you're not a resident of the islands. And these will be going on through till the end of March, when the ski season will, I suppose, be finishing off. The airport itself is about 30 kilometres from Andorra, and so they've got to put a bus on. It's going to be a free bus, shuttle bus, that will take you from the airport to Andorra, and then you can make your way up to the ski slopes, whichever one you've chosen. We used to go years ago, to Soldeo, and we took school parties there. You might have been watching the tennis last week, and Rafa Nadal was playing. He won his first 2 matches, and everything looked really positive. And then he came up against Thompson and did have the 3 match points, but ended up losing the second set. So it went to 3 sets, and during that third set he seemed to really aggravate an injury that he'd already had, and it looks as though he may well be out of the tournament in Australia, and we'll see how things go for the rest of the tennis season. It's a problem with his hip, and it's one he's had before. He just doesn't want to aggravate it anymore, and hopefully get back to full fitness, and we'll see the magic of Rafa back on court. A little bit on tourism, and in Spain in general, the reports are that the British and the German tourists are lagging behind on the mainland. But here in Mallorca, the British and the German tourists are choosing Mallorca, and even more of them are choosing Mallorca for the holidays last year and projected for this year. France is now the second largest of the markets for Spanish tourism, and looking at the figures, to the end of November 2023, the markets accounted for, this is the German and the tourist and the British markets, 26.7 million out of the 79 million, which is a drop slightly from the previous 28 million of 2019. But the figures for the Baleares, where the UK and Germany contribute 8.2 million tourists to the end of November last year, whereas in 2019 it was 8.1 million, so a slight increase there. So nationally, the UK and German tourists is being compensated for by other nationalities coming to Spain. In particular, I think the Spanish and the local governments are particularly excited that we're getting an increase in US tourism, with something like 500,000 American tourists coming to Spain is the hope. We'll see what happens here in Mallorca over the next year. One of the big problems, we talked about poverty a little bit a while ago, about the food banks, but the other side is that they can't, poor people are finding it very hard to find anywhere to live. And just from our own experience, we were talking to a friend the other day, and her son and daughter-in-law just had a baby, and they've chosen to live in a camper van. They bought a relatively new large camper van, and the cost of buying that is less than buying or renting an apartment. It seems to be all upside down to me. Well, one of the ideas that the government have got at the moment is any surplus tourist buildings, so hotels or apartments that used to be for tourists and are not being used anymore, to convert them to housing, particularly for the tourist sector, for hospitality, the hotel workers who find it hard, and many of them can't stay on the island during the winter time. They have to go to the mainland where property and living expenses are much less, and so they come back to the island to work in the summer. And we've had the problem that people are just not coming back to the island because it's too expensive, and they find it very difficult to find anywhere to live. So if they repurpose some of these buildings, provide the hotel workers with accommodation, make it sure that the license is that they can only be for hospitality workers and not for anyone, then hopefully we can get those people coming back to the island and staying and working during the holiday season. Another flying issue that's come up, something that's happened, I think I mentioned it in the past. There was a proposal some time ago to bring back seaplanes, and we were going to see them taking off last November. They were going to do the trials, but the weather was not so good around that time, and the sea trials are being put off now until this month. So later on into this month they're going to be doing some sea trials. They've got 2 planes ready to go, and the plan is to fly regular flights 365 days a year, when the weather is permitting, I assume, and its flights from Mallorca to Ibiza is the main one to start with, but then probably to Barcelona and also to Formentera. They're only small planes, they're not going to take large numbers of passengers, so only 19 passengers and 2 pilots. And well, that looks like something quite exciting. Do you fancy a seaplane trip to Ibiza? I don't know. We'll wait and see. One of our biggest supermarkets on the island is called Carrefour. It's a French company, and they've got 2 really big stores, as well as the Portuguese shopping centre and some smaller places dotted around the island. And Carrefour have decided to stop selling Pepsi products. Why? Well, because Pepsi put the price up too much, they say. So when the current stock runs out, they're not going to replace any of the Pepsi products at all. So that includes the thing that we know about, the Pepsi Cola, but it also includes Lay's crisps, Cheetos, and 7-Up is a Pepsi product. And what they'll do, they'll just replace them with alternative crisps, or the alternative Cheetos, or whatever. I'm not sure what Cheetos are actually. And 7-Up, there's lots of alternatives to that as well. And why are they doing this? Well, it's because they've increased the price so much. It's not clear what that price rise is, but Coca-Cola apparently have raised their prices by 7%, and Carrefour have accepted that as a reasonable increase. So it can only be assumed that the Pepsi price increase is much higher than the 7%. As far as Pepsi concerned, they're looking into it, and well, will they rescind their hike in price? I don't know. little bit of weather, and we are on an alert for heavy rain, so storms, particularly in the north of the island and the northeast of the island. And tomorrow we'll be on yellow alert. Temperatures have been dropping, and it certainly felt cooler or cold at night time. And in Campos, which regularly appears on some of the records, the temperature was down to -2. And that was followed by other parts of the island, excuse me, in Yuc, -1, and in Escorca, -0.2. So really very, very cold for Mallorca. On a slightly football news, the old Louis Sitjar football stadium, which I've visited many times in the past when it was a football stadium, when Real Mallorca were playing there before they moved to the new stadium in 1999. Well, since then, Louis Sitjar Stadium has been left to the elements, but there are still some parts of it standing, and the main entrance is still there with the Louis Sitjar, and the team emblem, the football emblem, is still over the gateway. Well, it's now been agreed that this is of historical interest, and it should be retained when the site is developed. So hopefully the entrance there will be incorporated into the new design, and we'll be able to walk through that door again and look at the Louis Sitjar above there, and quite looking forward to seeing what happens on that site. It's been derelict for the last 25 years, is that right? Wow. So, similar vein, the new stadium, Son Moix, which housed the Student Olympic Games in 1999 and then became the home of Real Mallorca. Well, that's undergoing, or has undergone, over the last 600 and something days. It's been reformed into what is now a proper football stadium, as I keep telling people, where the fans get close to the pitch and close to the players. It is looking fantastic. I was down there last week, you may have seen the video. I saw the players training, but it gave us an opportunity to have a look at the stadium, for me from a different angle, because I usually sit on the opposite side. So all very interesting. It's going to hold just over 26,000 spectators, not a huge number by First Division standards, the La Liga standards, but for Mallorca we rarely get a full house anyway. 26,000 are going to be able to sit there, and it's going to look absolutely amazing, I think. Hopefully the work's all finished, because on the 13th we're going to have a big inauguration party. Starting in the morning. They've got lots of things organised. Most of them are not football related, so there's a climbing wall, a scooter circuit with these little mini scooters, there's going to be archery, lots of other things going on, and there's going to be a giant paella, enough for 2,000 people. So I think they could get, if the weather's good, and the weather actually for Saturday is looking a little bit better, so hopefully there'll be a great turnout, and people will be enjoying the party beforehand. And then at 4:15 we've got the match against Celta for 4:15 in the afternoon, and we're hoping for big things, hoping for a win there. So things looking good here in Mallorca for the football. Just hope the weather holds out for that. And well, that's it for the news today. Hope you've enjoyed that, found it interesting. Thanks very much for watching. And Anisha's just come through the door. What good timing that is. Bye for now.